So we're back with the Nemo, and this is another vertical takeoff and land craft. I've got the landing gear. Obviously these have got to be cut to the right length. They're only just there for alignment for gluing, but basically that's the undercarriage. I haven't glued this together yet, but anyway, that's kind of what it looks like. If we lift it up, it is quite a big craft. That's all 3D printed to there, and then of course this is core flute, and then this is the tail off my old Voltigeur. So I've just made up a couple of these brackets and glued them on, and that just sits there. I've got to cut that back, of course, but and I've got to strengthen this up. But I've decided to make a slightly different tail because I'm lazy and I'd like to try something different, and I like to repurpose stuff. So that's what it's going to look like. It's going to have that basically sitting there like so. That'll sit in there, and that's how she'll look. So quite a big plane. So let's talk about the elephant in the room, which is this plane. So there's a couple of different issues with this plane that I've found. Like all planes, it uses a really good design in here. What it does, let me see if I can get that out for you. Right, this is obviously a square with a hole in it that you pre-print. It slides in, and of course both of the 8mm carbon spars fit in there, and then of course the one for the back, 2mm rod to hold it in place, and that holds together. Then what you've got is your flight control board sits in here, and then you've got some tabs. So what I'm thinking of doing, this is lightweight PLA. This is that new material. It's as hard as a bull's forehead. So what I've done is I've printed these out, which is, that's, you know, there's 1, 2, 3. Now the part that's a bit baffling is when you put it all together, that's supposed to be the bit that pivots. But according to the dimensions, it's not wide enough. So what I did is I made this extra piece to go on there, and that goes the other way. So I've made that to go kind of that way, and it's just a matter of just shrinking it down in the slicer. So I've just made that. So what I'm thinking of doing is having that one as the tilter, and that one just locked in there as the wing. So pretty ingenious design. So that'll sit there like so. Now if we have a look at the tilting mechanism itself is, they give you a couple of different designs. Now I kind of liked this one, and this one servo mounts through here, and then of course that's your center pivot, or that's your carbon fiber rod here, and then you've got these gears. So this gear here sits on your servo, and this gear either slides in there and does that sort of thing. Okay, so that was the first design. The reason I really like that design is because what it came with was these little motor covers. So if you have a look closely there, there's some screw holes there. So obviously that goes inside with some little standoffs and sits there and becomes your nicely finished motor. But they also give you this one, which is the later version. The gears are a little bit more robust. I'll show you how it works and I'll pull it apart. So I've just mounted the motor, and of course nothing's spinning around there. So obviously that's how she'll work. Now So that's fast forward flight, then you come back into your hover mode and you've got the amount of offset over the center point is to allow for your yaw adjustment, so you can yaw backwards and forwards and turn the craft around. So that'll be top dead center will be hover, and then you'll have a transition, and then you'll have a fast forward flight on that, and that's all the way forward. So if we have a look at the design of this, you'll notice a couple of different coloured bits and pieces. So let's start at the top. Take the prop off. Always remove the prop. So what I've done there is I've just used some 12mm long screws to screw the motor on, and that screws nicely into the block. I've made this plate up. Now in here, in the centre of this is a recess, and you're supposed to press some bearings in there, some 18x4 flange bearings. I want to see if it works first before I go shelling out $75 for bearings and then find out that it doesn't work. So for the sake of the first couple of flights, I'll use just the plastic on plastic. So the dowel is the same size as the carbon fibre. So what I've done is I've made up this doubler. Now it's got a spigot on it that goes in the hole and locates it, and then the servo I've had to grind out a little bit to make the teeth mesh nicely. So I had to take about 3mm off that to engage it back to make that nice, and that spacer now just sits there, rides flat for both of those. So basically these sprockets that they've made or designed up with the 5th version are clampable, right? So I kind of like that better than just this design that you've got to either glue it on to the shaft and be done with it. I like this design better. So what I'm going to do, that's how it's gonna sit, right? And then this side here, all I'm going to do is I'm going to break that section off here. I'm going to break that section off and use that as a clamp to hold that in place. And that plate there just allows for the bit of end float, and that's how it'll look. So that'll be all gone, that teeth that'll sit there like so, and basically that will sit in the plane. Oh, we've gone too far, she said. So that'll sit there, and that's what'll do the tilting. So that will sit out here somewhere, and that'll be cut off finally to suit. So that's how that'll all pan out, I hope. Yeah, basically I'm hoping that that will be a nice rigid design. I don't know whether I need to stick something inside there, and that is fairly rigid. The part I like about this plane, and if that tail doesn't work, I'll just pull that out. I need to put some screws in there. But when you turn it over and have a look, this is real ingenious here. There's actually I don't know whether you can see it in the light there, but there's actually a conduit that runs through there. So the servo fits straight in. Let's grab a servo. The servo fits straight in that way, and then the arm comes off the side and then moves this. So there's a cableway down there, and everything runs through into the fuselage, and then of course your cabling for your ESC motor, and your servos all run through the centre here. They come out of this hole. They come out of this hole, and then they go into that hole and then come out over here. So you just end up seeing a bit of a loop in here. So I've got to run all the power cables and everything for that. So everything runs through everything runs through here. I haven't cut that out yet, but that's where you cut out, and this is where your flight control board will sit here. The gyro will sit right here as well, and all your cabling will run out and run down. Have a look at this in here. I'll pull this out and you can have a look at it, but the size of that, look at that, you could put a cat in there. Not that I've got any ideas for the neighbourhood cat, but look, you could fit a heap of stuff in there, like big battery, and so you got to kit all that out. But look, really good design, and I don't know how much it weighs all up at the moment, but there's quite a lot of printing in that, so there'll be a couple more, probably about another month till I'm made in this. So I've got to glue all these together. These are just held together with rods at the moment, all these. So that is my Voltigeur VTOL. So the servo gets cut in here, cut that out, and you put a you put a timber plate, doubler plate over that, and put your servo in there, and your linkage comes down to here for your, so that'll come out of there. I'm going to have to put a standoff or something here just to guide that, to hold that, but basically there's my Nemo, whether you can see that, they're my Nemo brackets. I've designed that so if I want to, I can put a camera on and strap it on there and have it strap on. That's how she looks there. That's how she'll sit. She's pretty tail heavy actually. But anyway, that's how she'll sit. And with a nice big battery in there, she'll balance quite well, and hopefully we'll have another big VTOL to add to our collection. Oh, and the other thing that I'm looking at doing to make the to make it a little bit how could you say transportable is using in the wings, using these sort of brackets come apart, so they can come apart, and use them in there for the at least for the I'll probably put an XT60 connection for the power, but this will be for the servo for your elevator, which you need 3, and servo for the tilt mechanism, which you need 3. So that should do the aileron and the tilt mechanism. So that's the Nemo.